Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to discuss building a trellis to help tame your tomatoes. This is going to be the kind of trellis you may want to consider using for indeterminate tomatoes, also known as vining or climbing tomatoes. And the type of trellis that we're going to be building is called a string trellis or a drop string trellis, although in this case, my strings are already put in the ground and they're going to be picked up. So it's not really dropping, it's more of a raised string trellis, but it's the same thing. Like that part's not important. So first things first, the bed that this trellis is going to be going on is 10 feet wide by 4 feet deep. You're going to take the total length of the bed. In my case, that's 10 feet. You're going to see how many times 6 goes into that. You're going to multiply whatever the whole number result of that is. If it's not a whole number, round down to the nearest whole number. You're going to multiply that result by 2, and then you're going to add 4 to it, and that is how many of these posts you need. So in my case, 10-foot wide bed, 10 divided by 6, only goes in one clean time. So that is the 2 for the supports in the middle, and then we have the 4 on the outside corners for a total of 6 U-posts. I would do, and these don't have to be exactly in the middle when you place them. It's kind of mostly in the middle. That's what we're shooting for. So, again, you don't have to have your posts on the outside, completely on the outside either. On the outside corners, I should say, just, near the corners, near the middle. It's all approximations. It does not really matter. So, you need 6 of these U-posts. Now, how long of a U-post do you need? And honestly, if you can get 8 or 9 foot U-posts, that would be the way to do it. I can't get 8 or 9 foot U-posts. I don't even know if they make 9 foot U-posts. I think they do make 8s. I've just never seen them for sale. These are 7 foot U-posts. I have a whole bunch of them. They're all over the garden now, and mostly on the ground because I have to install them still. And I received a comment on the first video I did where I was showing in the winter. I think that was January. Maybe that was February. It's hard to tell because we didn't have snow. Anyway, that tomato trellis back there, I was showing how I constructed that, but it was already built, so it wasn't really a hands-on sort of thing. One of the viewers of the video mentioned that as a comment, that they added smaller U-posts to the top of these U-posts in order to extend their height. And I'm actually going to try that today. I bought, they had recommended, I think, 2 foot U-posts. I bought 3 foot U-posts because that's what I could find. So I'm going to bolt those on and wire them on. That way they're stable, because I could just do the bolt and they'd be kind of wobbly, but it would work. But I'm going to use some galvanized wire as well. Then I'll show you this whole process. So without getting too into the weeds, I'll explain what each thing is as we go through it. But the first thing I need to do, I'm noticing this as I look at these posts, is these have to be driven, ow, that was sharp. Anyway, these have to be driven a little further into the ground. So let me go get the post driver. If you don't have a post driver and you're going to be driving U-posts, you can do it with a hammer. Don't do it with a hammer. Just get a post driver. It will save you so much time, especially if you're going to do this more than once. I'll be right back. In case you're wondering, this is a post driver. It's got a big hole. You put it over the post, like so. And then you pick it up and you bring it down, like that. When you do that, you want to make sure you don't catch the little hooks on the back of the post. All right, pretty simple. To be fair, these do weigh a little bit because they're full of concrete on one end, and then that's capped and welded. So, yeah, it's basically just a big block of metal and concrete right here. And that's how it works. I'll knock the rest of these posts down to where they should be, roughly, and then we will go from there. That one might be a hair lower, but that's all right. They don't have to be exact. There we go. 6 posts driven another 4 to 5 inches into the ground in a matter of what, minute and a half, 2.5, something like that. Now to show you what else we'll need. We have some stuff here. In this pile are 2 approximately 5-foot long pieces of EMT, also known as, probably more commonly referred to as conduit. We have nuts, we have bolts, we have washers, we have some corner pieces, we've got a conduit cutter, we've got some other tools. And I just remembered what we don't have is a tape measure, so I'm going to go get that. Tape measure. So, from a tools perspective, not everything on the table is required for this project. For instance, the bush trimming shears are not required for this project. All the rest of the tools that are there actually kind of are, unless you count a bucket as a tool, in which case that is not required. All right, so the tools that are required for this project, as we saw, I think personally a post driver is required. Again, you can do that however you want. I just think that a post driver is, I feel, required. Other things are going to be required. You're going to need a tape measure. Unless you have the big box store that you order the EMT or conduit from, cut one of the pieces into 4-foot long, into at least 2 4-foot long pieces. So they need to be 4 feet long and not any longer than that. Really, you want them to be the width of the bed. In my case, the bed is 4 feet wide. So because of that, that's why mine are going to be 4 feet long. If you have 3-foot beds, use 3 feet. Should go without saying. So anyway, I did not have them cut this because I am dumb. So I have a couple lengths that aren't quite the same length. I just cut one 10-footer in half so that I could fit it into my small car. So what I'm going to show you now is how you cut them to length. First, though, I'm going to measure 4 feet. All right. 4 feet. EMT, that is not 4 feet. Right there. So I'm just going to do this the easy way. I'm going to hook this over the end of the pipe. 4 feet. I don't see that slipped. I say this is the easy way. This is not necessarily the easiest way. There we go. 4 feet is right where my thumbnail is. Okay, cool. So 4 feet is where my nail right there is. This is a conduit cutter, or EMT cutter. So we're just going to put this on, like roughly like that. And the way this works is it's got this little thumb screw thing right here. Yeah, thumb screw thing. And you tighten this down like that. Then you take this thing and you twist it around the pipe. Notice the pipe is not twisting. See how it's got a line now? Then go around a couple times and you twist. Go around a couple times. That was once. And again. And twist. And you just keep doing this. And what's happening here, just so you can see it. See that gouge that's showing up? It's going to get deeper and deeper until eventually it cuts all the way through the pipe. So I'm going to sit down instead of standing behind the camera and doing this. I'm going to sit down and get this done, and then I'll just do it like this so that you can see the whole thing. This can be a little hard on the hands, In theory, I suppose you could do this with a hacksaw. I like doing it this way, but perhaps that's just me. Point of note, the EMT that we're using here is 1/2 inch. And generally, you buy this in 10-foot long lengths, which is super convenient since the beds are 10 feet long. So for my 10-foot by 4-foot bed that we're putting this trellis on, I needed 3 pipes. Originally, I accidentally only ordered 2. So I had to go get one in my little car. It was fine. I just stood in the parking lot and did this until I had the pipe cut in roughly half. I mean, it wasn't a very exact half, mind you, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. See, I would say that's already maybe a quarter of the way through the conduit. This does take a minute. And there we go. Four feet. That edge is sharp. It's not as sharp or nasty as if it had been a hacksaw blade. Still mind the edge though. It's not the friendliest thing. We're going to not have to worry about it because we're going to be putting this end like this. So it won't even be exposed. It'll be fine. By the way, I'm well aware there are other ways to do this. You could just bend the conduit. You don't necessarily need the little corner brackets and whatnot. But I am doing this with ease of building in mind as opposed to cheapest cost or efficiency. You do you. All right. So now I got to cut the second pipe because it's a little long. But that's fine. Let's open this back up. Pop this on to about that same spot. Again, it does not have to be exact. That's tightened, and around we go. I'll see you when this is done. Or I guess you'll see me. Ta-da! Here's my 2 parts. And they're about within 1/8 of an inch. It's not perfect. But that's okay, because again, it doesn't have to be. These connections give us a good inch or so to play with. So as long as they're within that tolerance, you're fine. All right, so now that we're done cutting the 2 short pieces, we're done with that tool, which is fine. In my opinion, cutting the conduit to size is probably the most difficult portion of this. All right. Now, other things we're going to need. Phillips screwdriver. I have my wrench here. I don't know if I'm actually going to need this or not. Socket and ratchet set. I quite like this. This will definitely be required to put the bolts on, and some means of cutting the galvanized wire. In this case, very thick, sturdy wire cutters for cutting very very thick, sturdy wire cutters for cutting very thick, sturdy wire. There we go. Other things that this uses. These aren't tools. These are what's going to be creating the trellis, essentially. I went and bought 6 of these S-beaners. This is a slide lock kind. Doesn't really matter. The big thing is that it's able to support at least 50-ish pounds, and it fits within these eye hooks. So these eye hooks are sized for the holes that are in the smaller U-posts. I'll show you what I mean here. when I find my bag that was accidentally open. Oh wait, there's the bag that was accidentally open. Where are the contents of the bag that was accidentally open? Oh no! There's two of them. Ah, okay. Here we go. So I'll show you kind of what we're going for here. All right, so this is the locking kind. I'm not used to that. Okay, here we go. So S-beaner opens up like this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take one of these like this. Okay. Stuff like this. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, this way, so the hook is in the channel. Make sure you can see this. So anyway, you get it roughly, you know, there's going to be a nut there to stop it from wobbling. And, but the goal is to do this and then go like this, right? That locks. Now this provides a nice mounting point for us to take our conduit and slide it through. This is the replacement to the plastic clips I mentioned previously. This is all metal. This is all rated for outdoor use, with the exception of the EMT. But the EMT is fairly thick, and it doesn't matter if it's water resistant or waterproof or anything like that, because there's no wire being run through it. It's literally just a structural support. And it doesn't even have to hold that much weight, honestly. So, anyway, that's kind of the goal. We'll get to the actual construction here. Here's my hands. All right, cool. So, here's the S-beaner. Each one of these is rated for 75 pounds. There's going to be 6 of them. Between the 6, this will be capable of supporting well over twice the weight of the tomato vines and the trellis and all of that. And these aren't actually supporting the trellis. These are supporting the weight of the conduit, and not all of the trellis, I should say. These are supporting the weight of the conduit and the weight of the vines themselves. These only need to be as strong as these, which these are only rated for 53 pounds each. So again, we're going to have 6 of these. We have 6 of these, 1 for each pole, basically. You have to have 1 set for each pole. And a set is going to consist of 1 of these eye hooks and 2 of the bolts, or I'm sorry, 2 of the nuts that go with these eye hooks. I had to buy 2 sets in order to get the correct number of nuts, because they don't sell 3/16 inch nuts that I could find, which is ridiculous. At least not at the store I went to get these. And then you also are going to need 6 washers, which the washers I ended up going with were standard number 8s, which is what this is, as opposed to 3/16, because again, I couldn't find 3/16 washers that weren't like fender washers that ended up being like this wide. We don't want that for this purpose. We just want a little washer to do a little bit of a washer thing instead of a great big washer that just kind of sticks out and looks stupid. So, not that I so much care what this looks like, but the goal is to make it effective, not cumbersome to build. So anyway, standard number 8s. This is just a 30 count. These were not expensive. I don't know how much they were, but not expensive to do it this way. The only other way I could do it, if I wanted to get something that was kind of closer to the right size, would have been to buy a 50 pack that was 3 times the cost of this. I need a total of 6 of these. I don't need 50, so this is why I went with this. All right, so again, for each U-post, and there are 6 U-posts, there are 6, I guess, for each support, I won't say U-post. For each support, you need 1 big, sturdy, long U-post. I'd recommend an 8-footer or a 9-footer if you can get it. If you can't get it, you're going to need to get a 7-footer and then a 2 or 3-footer as well, for each one. So in my case, I have 6 7-footers and 6 3-footers. I'm going to mount these together with bolts and galvanized wire. That way everything is, it's not going to be weather impervious, but it's going to be much better and improved over the plastic J-hooks that I was using for the other tomato trellis and what I used last year. Anyway, let's get to the build because I know this part's all boring. So we'll get those done and taken care of. So here is the end that we're going to be building on first, right here. We'll get this out of the way. Get this out of the way. All right, and I had some of these just laying around loose. All right, so I need one of these. This is a 3/16 inch, 24 thread per inch eye hook, eye bolt, I should say, not a hook, with nuts. It's this right here. And the threaded portion's 1.5 inches long, which is pretty much exactly what we need. So we need, for each one, we need one of these, we need one of these, we need 2 of the nuts that go with this, and then we need one of these. We'll build one together. Yeah, we'll build one together, and then I won't make you sit through the rest of them, because I realize how boring that could be. Now, I'm going to orient this. I'll show you something important here. So if you look, see how this has this flange on it, right? So the big ones have the same flange, and I have the flange pretty much up against the wood, which means that if you are looking at one of these, like you're standing at the side of the bed, this is the orientation, I should say. See if I can get this to focus. This is the orientation that it's going to be in, okay? As you can see, the channel, the deep portion of the channel with the 2 sides that stick out are going to be facing out of the bed. That's important because we want the conduit to be mounted on the outside, not on the inside. So if I were to build it, for instance, like this, right, where I've got that channel and then like that, the conduit is actually going to be a little wider than the space that's allotted for it, and that's not what we want. We want to go the other way around. We want the space to be a little bit bigger than the conduit. So, I'm going to take this, find my nuts. Where did those go? Washers. Where are the nuts that go with this? Move some stuff out of the way here. There they are. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, take one of these, and we're just going to stick it together. And we're going to put this all the way up, like that. Then we're going to take this, and we're going to put it into the topmost hole on the inside of the channel. We're just going to kind of work that through. Like that. All right, and that leaves us on the outside. We have this sort of setup. Okay, come on. So now we're going to take a washer. Got our washer. Take our other nut, and we're going to put that on there. And we're going to get this hand tight. Like so. Now I'm going to use the wrench to tighten this. You want the hook to be in this orientation, not this orientation. Right? Or do I have that backwards? Easy way to tell. Works fine in that orientation. Oh. All right, so it actually needs to be in this orientation. I had it wrong in my head. Wow. This is why we test things, people. Okay, so there's that. Let me tighten some things down. In case you're wondering, standard size number 10 is what fits over those bolts. Is standard number 10 the same as 3/16? Oh, I hope not. If it is, I spent so much time at the store looking for a size that doesn't exist, because it does and it's just not labeled the same. Oh boy. Anyway, if it is that, somebody please don't tell me. Anyway, we're just gonna tighten it like a couple of turns. That's it. So we're gonna do that 6 more times. Well, oops. Since these have little locks on them, I might as well put the lock in place. It's not required. There we go. The lock is in place. There we go. So what this gives us then is this. Just like that. Helps if I have it on the screen. Just like that. It's not coming off. It can hold 75 pounds. Well, this part can. This part can hold 53 pounds. We're good. This whole thing isn't going to weigh that much. So, yeah, that's what we need. We need to do this 6 times. There's all 6 of those done. Splendid. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, if I'm done with that, then what is this for? Well, see, I'm not making a 2-foot tall trellis, obviously. So I need to connect the small U-post to the bigger U-post. So these are what I'm going to use to do that. And I'm also going to need to use some galvanized wire, which I already have over there. So now it is time to take the conduit and the U-post, the smaller ones here, and these connections, these end corners, of which you need 1 for each corner, right? So you need 4 of those. These are kind of expensive, so like you don't have to use these, but I find that this makes it so easy because you literally just put it on, screw these little ends down, this, and then that grabs the conduit. Sorry. You screw these little ends down, these little posts come through, grab onto the conduit, and the whole thing becomes extremely sturdy then. It's so easy to build this way. Again, the hardest part of this is probably cutting the EMT/conduit to the right length. Okay, so let's get back over there and we'll continue the build. All right, so the next step is to get the smaller U-posts attached to the larger U-posts. To do the lion's share of that work, I have these. Should be pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these through the topmost hole on the 7-foot U-posts, which are currently about 5 foot and 11 inches tall, approximately, or 5 foot 10. I don't know, something like that. They're close to my height. There's the S-beaner, shorter U-post. And my goal was to do this in such a way well, that's going to be a problem. I can't reach that tall, can I? My ropes aren't made for that either. All right. Because I decided to do this after... Crap. All right. Hold that thought. Time to adjust. Oh, string, wherefore art thou, string? With any luck, we'll get this done before the sun is down. Box of tomato clips, because I'm going to need them now since the strings aren't going to be quite long enough. Nylon twine. I need something to cut the twine with. Scissors. Okay, so new plan. Build the conduit portion of the trellis. Raise up one side to the required height. Raise the other side up to, no. Okay, this is gonna suck. Okay, cool. It is what it is. I suppose that building half of this at a time is pretty easy. You just take these. You take this. And you just make sure that you hook it through. Hook side out. Like so. Okay. So I guess that's the first thing we need to do. Lots of this. Right, I mean, this is extremely sturdy, so at least I have that going for me, which is nice. Okay, now I need 2 of the elbows and my screwdriver. Elbows, Phillips head screwdriver, and just make sure this is the right one. That'll work. And for this, we do not have to get this exact. Just going to kind of get it on there so that it doesn't pop off easily. It's like that. And I'm going to put it like mostly facing down for now. The second I pick this up, this whole thing gonna want to move. Just like that, see? You can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm putting this on the other end as well. And just making it match straight down. And then watching as it twists wildly in my hand. Okay, there's that part. Okay, cool. This actually isn't that hard. Take one of these. Put the other end through there. I'm just going to let it to kind of do the supporting work. That one we're going to tie down or tighten down pretty hard. Take this and put it like that. So when I stand it up, so again, all I'm doing on this end is tightening this down. I'm going to kind of move these where they will be. It's going to be, that one's got to be like that. My trellis actually overhangs a bit on one side because while this is the right length, because this is inside the bed, it cuts off a good 8 inches or so of room. You just kind of want these roughly where they're going to go. And we're doing this so that they're not in the way for the next step, which is putting up string. Lots and lots of string. And actually, I can make this go a little further, but I'm going to have to wait to do that. So we're going to need quite a lot of length on this. I don't really know how much. I mean, at least 8 feet, right? So longer is better. So we'll cut it like that. We're going to tie this on with just a little simple knot. One thing to keep in mind, the knot needs to be tight, but it doesn't need to be tight to the pipe, because if you make it tight to the pipe, then you won't be able to adjust it. That said, this is nylon string. It slides pretty easily. All right, I just got to do this a bunch more times. If you're especially fancy, you might buy hooks that you can just kind of over the top of this, that you can then extend and do actual drop string with. This is more of just string trellising and less drop string trellising because you can't drop this. Dropping meaning basically giving more slack in the string without running a new string. Systems like that do exist. I'm just doing triple knots here. Feel free to get fancier if you want. I have not found that to really be necessary. When you're figuring out the length of the string, it needs to be long enough to basically get down to the ground. Like I said earlier, longer in this case is better. We're just gonna clip these to the tomatoes after twining them around a few times. We'll clip them underneath some leaf nodes, and then we will be able to trim off the excess, and that'll work. It's not the way I had wanted to do this. I wanted to use the strings I already ran, because you just plant the plant right on top of those strings, and that secures them in the ground, and then you don't even have to use clips. And I could probably get away with just using a clip or two to do the initial securing now, but who knows? All right, that side is done. So now what we need to do is I need to bring this up and mount it together. All right, maybe the middle is where you start. I haven't done this before. Bear with me. People are probably watching and being like, I'll say. This is heavy enough that I can't just clip it into place. All right, so decide how high you want it to be. I'm going to go for that high, which means I need to kind of secure this. I lost my washer somewhere. Well, of course, there's the washer. Can I get, nope, I cannot. Okay, well, okay. Where'd it go? I stepped on it. There it is. Okay. It's always something, isn't it? Oh man, this is gonna take forever. Okay. One washer on. Okay, now I mentioned securing this galvanized wire. I am going to do that, but I am going to wait to do that until I have the other posts secured. Because this is precarious at best. I never did need the screwdriver. Get that out of my pocket. All right, so in case you couldn't really see it there, what I am doing is this in, and then on the back, a washer, and then the nut. With the two U-posts in this region, where their holes line up. Why is there a rope going through this one? Oh, because this is supposed to be way over there. Okay, well. I think that's it right there, yeah. Cool. Are you seriously going to make me screw the whole thing in? All right, whatever. It would be cool if you didn't require that. I think the bugs are trying to get me, folks. Okay, washer. Nut. And now I need the screwdriver, because of course I do. Good enough. But that seems to be kind of like that. Well, see, this is super easy now. Now that the majority of the weight is being supported, well, sure, now it just works. Oh my gosh. Did I just get lucky on that first one that didn't need a screwdriver? Look, I'll be the first to admit that this looks a bit rickety. However, once this is secured down here, it will no longer be rickety. It will, in fact, be extremely sturdy. And I don't think we'll have to worry about it. But I got to do the conduit, EMT, and whatnot on the other side, as well as the twine. I'm going to support this in the center briefly. This is a bit dangerous just because of how rickety that trellis is, but I have to work with what I've got, which in this case is just a bunch of rickety stuff. Great. That's exactly what I wanted to see happen. How am I going to get that back up there? A ladder, that's how. I forgot to tighten that end down. Oh, but it's tight enough that I can't get it back on. Cool. Oh man, I am so close to being able to reach that, but not quite. Always make sure you lock your ladder. Nice and level. Nice and level. Try to get it level. Little known fact about John. John hates being on ladders. Not a fan of ladders at all. Okay. I'm going to get off this ladder because ladders are death traps. All right. This is technically progress, right? Yeah, I think this technically counts as progress. Ow. Woo! What is poking me? That hurts. Wow, that hurts. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a tiny little shard of metal. Well, not a fan of that either, but, you know. Yeah, that's probably what that is. Ow. Okay. This is not exactly right, but it's fairly close. Get him away. Okay, this needs to go this way. This only gets messy if I try to deal with these things hanging and flipping around. So if I don't deal with them that way, then it should be better, right? If I hadn't been trying to avoid doing this with the ladder the whole time, this probably would have been the easier way to do it. But I hate ladders, so this I can deal with. Without having to worry about the extra weight of these and them sliding around, throwing the weight of everything else off, this becomes much easier to deal with as it moves. I could have swore I had sized these so that I would not have to screw them in while I was at the store, but apparently the one that I tested it with was the only one that was the size to do that. I imagine either the paint is causing the issue or something else. I don't know. Probably the paint. Oh, my finger is not happy. That. Please don't do that. Well, something got me for sure. That's actually bleeding a little bit. Whatever. This, you just got to tell yourself one thing, that this trellis will be glorious when it's built. I know what went wrong here, and I realize I haven't explained it all that well yet, so I will at the end of this video. I can't reach that one. Oh, bother. Alright, so now that it's like mostly up there, now I'm going to put this end on. And from a stability standpoint, this really ought to firm things up a bit. Well, this is doing kind of a weird thing I didn't anticipate. The entire thing is being held under tension. And as it moves, the S-beaners kind of adjust to compensate for said tension. That's just interesting, unexpected. Seems to be like this. Okay, well. I mean, interestingly, it looks rickety, but that's actually fairly stable. The part that is rickety now is the bottom of the smaller U-posts. Unfortunately, I'm being eaten alive, and I'm running out of light, and I'm running out of battery. So let's get back to this tomorrow. So where did we leave off? It's warm today, I'll tell you that. All right, so from the looks of it, I need to go around. I need to run at least 7 more strings, which that's no problem. I've got the ladder out here still. And need to water things today too, but that's not part of this. Once the strings are installed, and then I'm going to take the galvanized wire, I'm going to tighten this down, loosen this a bit, go back and forth until these are not pulling in to the center at the top so hard, so that they're a little more even down here. That way they don't do this. And then this will be good. Something that I would recommend doing if you were going to copy this design is to flip these over so that the flange is at the top. That, first of all, gets it out of the way so that you don't risk running into it. But also that means that the channel will nest inside this channel with no problems instead of the flange being a problem there too. In retrospect, that's clear. Looking at this now, I thought about this last night, but there is no way I am going to spend the time to reverse all of these right now. So anyways, let me go get up on that ladder and run some string. Probably best if you're careful to not drop the string when you cut it. Although, if you did drop the string, you could just grab that. You could just run another one and then grab that string that you dropped and use that for the next one over when you have to move the ladder. Yes, make sure to trim off excess while you're up here. I'm interested to see what extra utility this offers, this extra height. Because this is a good, at least 2 feet taller. That one is getting completely shaded out by both of its neighbors that formed a tent over it. That's interesting. Well, we're going to fix that. Ooh, I didn't lock my ladder. Shame. All right, it's not looking too bad so far. Only thing to fix now is this inherent wobbliness to the top supports. I'm going to go through, cut about 6 1-foot long sections. They don't have to be 1 foot. It's just gives me enough wire to work with. And it's getting hot out here. This is one drawback to chopping down that tree from last year, is which is not shown in any of the videos because I didn't start doing anything on YouTube until January of this year. But we did have a huge oak tree right over there that shaded half the yard at any given time. And during this time of day, the shade would have been right where I'm standing. And so that would have been nice for this. But that tree was dying. It had some problems. And also, the presence of that oak tree made this yard squirrel central. And I ended up with so much animal damage last year because of it that I was just constantly fighting the squirrels, having to replant things over and over and over. Not everything takes well to that, you know, like my strawberry plants, those did not take well, and they all died, except for like 3. And those 3 were so stunted from it that I don't think I got any strawberries. Since you're working with wire during this step, do be careful. Don't jab yourself or cut yourself. You know, say common sense caution, but things like getting little pieces of metal in your finger while working with conduit, for instance, like what happened to me yesterday, sometimes are sort of inevitable. Okay, now you can kind of see it here in the picture. There's a hole right here, and there's a, well, right there, and there's a hole right there. And I'm just going to latch the 2 together. Then I'm going to loosen this up here, tighten it down here, and then tighten it back again up here. And that should straighten the pole out a little bit and add a lot of stability. All right, so the way I'm going to do this, make a loop roughly the halfway mark. Put the loop around like that. We're going to go a few twists, like so. Then we're going to take this. We're going to feed it through this hole. So that's what we have so far. Then we're going to take that tail again, pass it through the hole in the bar behind it. And they have a hook on the back of this that makes it quite easy. Just kind of wrap this wire around it, secure it down. What we're looking for is just that this doesn't have anywhere near as much play as it did. Once that's all done, take this being the screwdriver, and we start tightening. And I think that's done it. Okay, I'm going to do the rest of these, and I'm not going to make you suffer through that. So we'll be back in a bit. Okay, now that that's done, you might be asking yourselves, well, why am I going through all the trouble to do all this? This seems like a fair amount of work. And truth be told, it is a fair amount of work. But sometimes that's what you got to do. Gardening is not a non-labor intensive hobby. Let's put it that way. So, but in this case, we are doing it specifically so that we can get these tomatoes off the ground. Okay. Not these tomatoes, like just these tomatoes, but every tomato plant in this bed is becoming unwieldy. And as you can see, there's a lot going on here, and I can't even see what's going on account of the fact that this plant just sort of lays around. Now, pulling off some suckers that I didn't even see before because I couldn't, because the plant was so flat. But yeah, there we go. So now this is the string, which is the second string over for this plant. I'm going to get this one out of the way first. So here's what you do. Get yourself a box. And in this case, it's a box of tomato clips. I quite like these. You're going to grab one tomato clip. This is what the tomato clip looks like. Pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to bend it in the middle so that it makes like a almost Pac-Man shape, you know, like that. And the goal is to get the string in this channel right here in the middle. You can get the string in the channel. There's little teeth there that lock onto it when you close this. And then you put the big hoop part right here around the stem. You're going to do that underneath a leaf node. So you take your plant, you take your string, you're gonna we're just going to start twining the string around the plant. Helps if you're not sitting on the string when you do this. And in the process, you're going to pick that plant up a bit. Not a lot. You don't want to put too much force on it or anything. But the whole goal is to train it to go into an upright position. And normally, you'd be doing this from the bottom up. But because I had to drop the strings like I did, that's not how we're doing it. I think I'm going to do it to this leaf node. Because then I can take the two below that off the plant. The string pulled fairly tight. Not tight enough to like choke anything, mind you. Just tight enough to actually pick this whole thing up a bit. Like so. You do want there to be a little play in the string. And then clip it like so. Now, as this plant grows, we just wrap this around. And my plant's a little droopy here because it needs to be watered. Everything out here needs to be watered. It's been kind of dry. We did get some rain after weeks of no rain, but it's just been kind of dry. Now, I'm not a fan of these plants touching the ground. That's how you end up with blight and other fungal issues and pest pressure and things like that. So as this plant gets taller, it's going to get more things taken off the bottom. So I might have to move this clip at some point. Did I reverse direction there? I did. It doesn't do it. Don't do that. Can't. I see what I did. Okay. This way. Top of the plants are roughly right here. So what you want is there to be space for airflow. You want these plants to be able to dry out after a rain or after you water them. You do not want anything that promotes mildew or fungal growth. So keeping things dry is paramount. Now, this one is actually flowering. They're both flowering. And what that means is I'm going to let them flower at this point. And then everything below the flowering mark, leaf-wise, will be eventually taken off. And that will be the end of the single stemming as well. So eventually this leaf node will be gone. This leaf node will be gone. This leaf node will be gone. And it'll just be kind of a crooked stem coming up. But that's fine because it's going to have lots of new leafy growth at the top. Do more view. All right, I got to clean some of this up because I can't even see what I'm dealing with here. Oh, you are quite in the way, and you are actually really tall. Okay, cool. All right, and then here. Huh. Look, you're a sucker. You're a sucker. Sometimes I'm a sucker. Ta-da! That's what it looks like. String trellis. Everything's all trellised up, pruned nicely. I got to come through and water, clean up what's left of the string and whatnot. All in all, I would say this project takes about 2 hours and 45 minutes to do if you're slow and change your plan in the middle like I did. And that was what I was alluding to when I said yesterday that I knew what the problem was and that I would cover it at the end of this video. So the problem is that I built the trellis to be like this one over here. See, I designed it to be the height of myself, roughly, because I can reach everything. I can tie, I can do all that, right? I can make any repairs. The problem is, and I went to construct this taller one the same way. The problem is when you swing this conduit from the down like this position to the upright position, if you do it over there, you can't reach them. Here you can. It's easy. You just connect everything and screw it in. You don't have to worry about it. But on that one, as we saw yesterday, well, I saw yesterday, you're seeing now, that was not the case. I could not do that. Things were falling apart because because it was so high up, I didn't tighten it the way I needed to. I should have broken out the ladder right from the get-go and just built it that way. But, it's all right. Changing plans in the middle of doing something, just because it's a bad idea doesn't mean you won't have fun, right? Anyway, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comment below. If this was something that was useful to you, go ahead and hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. And until we talk again. You're going to want at least 4 posts for each 6-foot increment. And really, you don't need like 4 posts for... No, that's still not right. How do I want to describe this? Today, we're going to build a dropped string trellis. It should just be called a string trellis. I got to stop doing that, especially since I'm not dropping the string. I'm bringing it up. All right. Yeah, I'm so great at this. Winning at YouTube. Not at all. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Is this gonna be what it's like? All video? Oh God, I hope not. Okay. Holy Jesus, Batman, it's hot in here. Woo! Dang! Okay. Okay. That's warm. That's 101 in here. Oh. Oh, wow. Where are my tools? Why can't I find anything? Oh, that's depressing. I can't find anything. Where is... Gotta make sure it still works, For those of you who have never done this with a tripod in between your legs and a camera right in your face, it's a little more difficult than you'd think. I shoot some things like this, like when I did the sanitizing video. I stood in a similar position. It's just very awkward. However, it makes it so that I can see exactly what you're going to see. And that's helpful. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. From a recording perspective, it's currently up to 1 hour and 35 seconds. Hey, look! I put that on the wrong end. Wah, wah, wah. Well, that's not quite what I wanted to have happen. What a nightmare. Cool. Tomatoes. Stay strong. I guess I can let the potato in the middle grow. That's what's it gonna do? Potato? I mean, that's not a problem, right?